A rookie walks into NASCAR's first ever street race in Chicago. He's never raced in the Cup Series before. The track is brand new, the weather is brutal, and somehow, he doesn't just compete, he dominates. Shane Van Gisbergen made the best stock car racers in America look like they were driving a different series. 4 wins in 5 road course races, a 36-year-old rookie, and the first driver in 60 years to win on debut. This isn't just a good story. This is the moment NASCAR realized the rest of the world had caught up. This is how a kid from New Zealand didn't just join NASCAR, he broke it. Long before Chicago, before the rain, before America even knew his name. Shane Van Gisbergen was already a problem. He didn't grow up in North Carolina. He didn't race late models in the South. He grew up in Auckland, New Zealand, a country with 5 million people and almost zero path to NASCAR. But racing there isn't casual, it's raw. Tight circuits, little margin, no forgiveness. Shane Van Gisbergen started in karts, moved into Formula Ford, then touring cars. And very quickly, the pattern became obvious. He adapts fast, he learns faster, and once he understands a car, he extracts everything from it. But New Zealand was too small, so he crossed the Tasman. When Shane Van Gisbergen arrived in Australia, he didn't enter a feeder series, he entered the Supercars Championship. And Supercars isn't forgiving. The cars weigh over 1,300 kilograms. They produce over 600 horsepower. They're twitchy under braking. They punish tire abuse. You don't finesse these cars, you wrestle them. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't peak once. He built a reign. 3 Supercars championships, dozens of race wins. Consistent frontrunner across multiple rule changes, and rule changes matter. Because when aero packages shift, tire compounds change and teams reset, most drivers need time. Shane adapts almost immediately. That's a pattern. When the Gen 3 era came in, new car, new balance, new challenges, he didn't fade. He won the championship again. That tells you something critical. His success wasn't car-specific. It was driver-specific. Street circuits in supercars are brutal because the cars are heavy and the tracks are narrow. Adelaide, surfer's paradise, Townsville, concrete walls inches away. Overtaking requires commitment. Braking zones are short. Grip changes constantly as rubber builds. This is where Shane separated himself. He's comfortable placing the car millimeters from the wall lap after lap. He's aggressive on entry, but never panicked mid-corner. And when pressure builds late in races, he gets calmer. That composure under chaos is what Chicago rewarded. The Bathurst 1000 isn't just speed, it's patience. 6+ hours, changing track temperature, traffic, strategy, fatigue. You have to know when to attack and when to wait. Shane Van Gisbergen mastered that balance. Late race moves, calculated aggression, managing tires without surrendering pace. That endurance discipline translates directly to NASCAR's long races. It's not just about being fast for 5 laps. It's about being precise for 300. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't dominate a weak field. He beat champions. He went head-to-head with Scott McLaughlin, one of the most statistically dominant drivers in modern supercars history, who later transitioned successfully to IndyCar. He battled Jamie Whincup, a 7-time Supercars champion and one of the greatest touring car drivers Australia has ever produced. These weren't prospects. They were established, elite drivers at the peak of their careers. And Shane Van Gisbergen didn't just steal wins when they faltered, he beat them straight up, on pace, on strategy, under pressure. When McLaughlin was at his statistical peak, Shane was the one applying pressure. When Whincup brought experience and composure, Shane matched it and often surpassed it. That matters, because when NASCAR fans saw a 36-year-old rookie win in Chicago, they didn't see the years spent fighting champions every weekend. They didn't see the discipline forged in battles against drivers who would go on to succeed internationally. They saw a debut. What they missed was the resume behind it. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't arrive from obscurity. He arrived from a battlefield. July 2023, Chicago street race. NASCAR had never done this before. A temporary street circuit, tight corners, concrete walls, no data, and rain falling just to make things worse. Most Cup drivers were learning the track in real time. Shane Van Gisbergen was learning the sport in real time. He had never raced in the NASCAR Cup Series, never done a proper stock car oval race, never managed stage breaks, never dealt with NASCAR restarts. And yet, within laps, something felt different. He wasn't surviving, he was carving through the field, late braking into tight 90-degree corners, rotating the car mid-corner like it was a supercar, finding grip in places others couldn't. Veterans with decades of NASCAR experience, they looked uncomfortable. Shane looked composed. Then came the final restart. Rain still lingering, walls still close, pressure at its peak. This is where rookies make mistakes. Instead, Shane drove away. Not by inches, not by luck, by control. When he crossed the line, it wasn't just a race win. It was the first time a driver had won on their Cup Series debut since 1963. 60 years. And it took a New Zealander to do it. Here's where the narrative shifted. One win, maybe a surprise. 4 road course wins in 5 starts. That's not luck, that's a pattern. Suddenly, every time NASCAR went left and right, not just left, the favorite wasn't an American champion, it was the outsider. And that forced a question nobody inside the garage wanted to answer. Had NASCAR just underestimated the rest of the world? Chicago was the headline. But it was the smaller moments in later races that made veterans take him seriously. On multiple road courses, races came down to restarts, bunched field, cold tires, heavy fuel load. This is where most drivers defend. Shane attacked. He would. Brake later than the car in front. Turn in decisively before others committed. Rotate the rear just enough to square the exit. Be full throttle half a second earlier. Half a second. That's all it takes. Over one corner, it's a position. Over a lap, it's control of the race. Veterans who had mastered NASCAR restarts suddenly had to adjust to someone braking deeper into technical sections than they were comfortable with. That's unsettling. On longer green flag runs, something else showed up. While others pushed early and fell off, Shane often conserved just enough tire to attack late. You'd see it in lap times. 2/10 here, 3/10 there. Then in the final stint, he'd find grip when others were hanging on. That isn't aggression, that's discipline. Learned from endurance races like the Bathurst 1000. In NASCAR, that discipline translates directly to closing speed in the final 10 laps, and closing speed wins races. There were passes that didn't look dramatic on broadcast, but mattered inside the garage. Diving inside under heavy braking into a tight hairpin. Setting up a move 2 corners earlier to control exit speed, forcing a veteran to defend earlier than planned. He wasn't muscling past drivers, he was out-positioning them. That's the difference between raw pace and race intelligence travels across continents. The first win was impressive. The second was interesting. By the third dominant performance on a road layout, something changed. Drivers began referencing his braking points in interviews. Teams analysed his corner entry traces. Crew chiefs adjusted setup philosophies for street-style circuits. That's when you know it's real. When the field adapts to you. Chicago was shock. The next road courses were proof. And proof is what transforms a guest appearance into a threat. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't figure out NASCAR. He exposed a blind spot. For decades, the NASCAR Cup Series was built around ovals, left turns, drafting, inches at 200 miles per hour. Road courses were important, but they weren't the identity. SVG grew up in the opposite world. Precision braking, aggressive rotation, managing heavy cars through tight corners. On a street circuit, the skill set flips. It's not about airflow, it's about control. Street circuits reward 3 things. Late braking without locking up rear rotation on entry. Confidence inches from concrete. Shane Van Gisbergen is elite in all 3. He trail brakes deeper. He uses throttle to pivot the car mid-corner. He's comfortable letting the rear step out slightly. Most NASCAR drivers are trained to minimize slide. Shane uses it. That tiny difference? Over a lap, it's tenths. Over a race, it's control. And when conditions change, rain, temperature swings, grip variation, his advantage grows. Because adaptation has always been his weapon. This is where it gets interesting. Shane Van Gisbergen didn't just win races, he proved something. A world-class touring car driver can step into NASCAR and win immediately. That sends a message, not just to fans, but to drivers worldwide. America isn't closed anymore. Trackhouse Racing's Project 91 entry wasn't just a one-off experiment. It was a signal flare. And when a New Zealander dominates on debut, international fans notice. Australia noticed. New Zealand exploded. global motorsport media paid attention. NASCAR, historically very American, suddenly had a global headline. SVG didn't just break the field, he expanded the map. Here's the real tension. Ovals are different, traffic is different, dirty air matters more. But every season, he learns. And the more road courses NASCAR adds, the more dangerous he becomes. Because now it's no longer a surprise, now it's expectation. And expectation changes pressure. The garage adjusted, but they're still chasing. NASCAR thought it invited a guest. What it really did was open the door. Shane van Gisbergen proved something uncomfortable. The skill gap isn't where people thought it was. The world is closer than the garage believed. And road courses aren't a weakness anymore, they're a threat. Because now there's data, there's experience, there's belief. And when a 36-year-old rookie from New Zealand can walk into America's most established racing series and win immediately, the question isn't whether he'll win again, it's this. What happens when more drivers like him decide to try? And if that happens, NASCAR doesn't just change, it evolves. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, leave a comment and check out the next video that is more than speed.